Hello, everyone, and welcome to the November Filled with Less Show. If this is your first time with us or you're just listening, this voice belongs to Cynthia Damascus.
And I am Molly Sabrin, and today on our show we are talking about daily renewals, gut health, and derailed plans.
Speaking of derailed plans, we were totally on board for bringing you an October show, but as you may have noticed, that didn't happen. Our plans got derailed, and it was because we were gallivanting all over the country.
Yes, we were doing very exciting things, so we didn't have time.
We didn't have time. So the first thing we did, we went to Michigan.
Yes, we went to the Orthodox Women and Healing Ministries Conference, which takes place at Dormition Monastery in Rives Junction, Michigan, and it was wonderful as always.
Yes.
Love that retreat. And actually, the guest speaker there will be our guest today on the Healthy Body segment, and that is Dr. Pawsat. So I'm excited to hear you talk to him because I loved what he had to say at the Women in Healing Ministries Conference.
I did too. He is just a lovely man, and I talked to him on my podcast quite a few months ago, and yeah, it's going to be great. But then we went to Arizona also. So see, we were gallivanting around the country. We went to the Juicing and Raw Foods retreat that Father John Kalbaum and Matushka Sherry Kalbaum, aka the Juice Lady, she's been on our show before, they put it on in Carefree, Arizona, and it was a lovely time.
Yeah, I still had to pinch at myself. I can't believe it worked out so beautifully. I have never done anything like that in my life, like gone away by myself to a gorgeous retreat center in gorgeous Arizona. It was a real treat. It was really a reset for me, I know, physically, spiritually. But why don't you explain a little bit more about that retreat, like why we went and what it was about? Sure.
So, well, we went for a number of different reasons. First of all, we wanted to get to know Father John and Matushka Sherry better. We have enjoyed talking to them in the past, and we're just of such the same mind. We wanted to get to know them. Secondly, we were scouting for our own retreat. I have been wanting to do a retreat for years, and I get all these emails from people who are asking me when I'm going to do a retreat, but I never knew where to hold it. I could find places to hold it, but then it was like incredibly expensive. So where could I hold it that was affordable for people? And I think we found our place, Molly.
Yes, and it's absolutely beautiful. It really is, and peaceful. It just screams retreat.
Yes, it does. And Christian retreat, which was so important to us. There's a chapel there, so it would be so easy to do an Orthodox Christian health and wellness retreat. So you can expect that next year, God willing, hopefully October.
Yes, we will keep you posted.
Yes. And then, last but not least, another benefit, and the reason we did this is we got to meet in person some of our members for the first time. And, you know, our membership is so near and dear to us. And we haven't said this in the past much, but this is a membership-driven ministry. We're supported by our members, and we just value them above all else because they're allowing us to just love on them and create something that is helping more and more people. So these members, it just to meet them in person was incredible.
Yeah, it was kind of an emotional experience because it's been on Zoom, and you do feel like you know these members of your community. You really become close. You've watched them grow and overcome, and you know, we kind of bear each other's burdens together, and then to see them face to face, it was really special.
It's really special. If you're thinking about considering joining the membership, if you're not in our membership already, there are a couple things that I just want to make sure you know. First of all, yes, Molly and I put together a deep dive every month on a different topic, but you don't have to do it. If that's not where you're at in your life at that time, it's not something you have to keep up with. It's not additional stress or pressure on you. We have live sessions once a month. If you can make it, that's awesome. If you can't, that's okay. So again, no stress or pressure. If you just join the membership because you want the deep discount on your supplements and you want to see Molly in your inbox kicking off your week every Monday with something inspirational, that's okay too. So I just want to persuade you to take a look at it, because I think that this community is just a God-given gift to a lot of women.
Right. I absolutely agree. It really is a way to refuel weekly. All of us need to fill up with good conversation, uplifting, encouragement, and this is a great place to do that. So, yes, look into that. You go to our website and check out our membership.
Yes, but I kind of went off on a rabbit trail. So it was wonderful to meet all of our members, but why don't you tell us what you learned, what you got out of the retreat?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, like what I took home with me, because there was so much, there's so much teaching, and I had a lot of alone time to reflect, which is very rare for me to have so much quiet. I did a lot of journaling, a lot of praying, but I think the biggest takeaways, well, from a physical perspective, it was just a really kind of profound reminder that my physical health is absolutely all tied up to my spiritual and mental health. And that, being a good steward of this body, that God lovingly stitched together by, eating whole, unprocessed foods that He provided, and to see that food as medicine really is an act of reverence. And the truth is that when I just feel better, when I feel more energized from clean eating, from moving my body, from getting enough rest, I am spiritually more fruitful, and beginning to really believe and accept and live out the fact that self-care and, again, eating good food actually helps me love my neighbor better.
Yes.
So that was, it just really drove it home. I've been working on that for the last couple of years, but I think this was kind of a big turning point to me. Like, it really settled in to my soul, this truth. And then the other takeaway was from Father John Calbaum. And he led beautiful talks, and he talked about abiding in the head versus living in your heart. And how in our head, a lot of us live up in our heads. And in our head is where we have our ego, our opinions, our judgments, our fears. We need to have this need for answers and certainty. And usually when we're living in our head, there's turbulence in our soul. And so what we want to do is learn how to move from the head into the heart. And the heart is a place of stillness. It is a place that accepts mystery and uncertainty. It's a place of surrender, surrendering our will to God's will. It's a place of quiet. And you are in your heart when what you see are the fruits of the Spirit versus the fruits of the passions. And so I've been thinking a lot about that since I've been home, trying to be very attentive to my soul at any given moment, and to ask myself, am I in my head right now or in my heart? And he gave us tools for making sure when we feel like we've kind of moved up into our head, we can use deep breathing, we can use mindfulness, prayer, gratitude journaling, all ways to help us move back down into a place of peace. So, I mean, it was powerful stuff, I have to say.
It was powerful, and I got to experience that firsthand because I took Amtrak out there, and suffice it to say, it was not a very good trip. It wasn't like my last Amtrak trip that I took. And I came into the retreat kind of frazzled. I felt like I had some PTSD going on, and then also knowing that I was going to get back on Amtrak to get home. I would say that the first at least half of the retreat, I was so in my head and so negative because I couldn't get my mind off of what I'd just been through for 3 days before the retreat, that, thanks be to God, Matushka Sherry and Father John both took me under their wings. Matushka gave me an herbal remedy to try to help calm me down so that I could enjoy my experience there. And Father John is a heart math practitioner, so he was able to hook me up to his computer for heart math and showed me how to do breathing exercises to bring my heart into coherence, my heart rhythm into coherence. And this is how you can calm yourself down. This is how you can soothe yourself. And I just feel so blessed to have been able to see this firsthand, because I do practice deep breathing exercises. But when you're in the heat of the moment, it's really hard to say, okay, Cynthia, you know what to do this. It's hard to do, and I was able to see firsthand that it's really worth the effort.
You know, I remember at your Holistic Christian Women Conference several years ago now, Dr. Orfanos came and talked about heart math and did a demonstration on that. And it's such an amazing tool, right, that people don't think about. Like, I use it all the time now, the breathing. It is really powerful, I think, to lower those cortisol levels, or even if I'm experiencing physical pain, I've used also that same technique for kind of for pain relief.
Sure, for migraines.
Yeah.
Things. Absolutely. It reminds me of Lamaze.
Yes.
For people getting ready for childbirth.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had a wonderful time in Arizona, and we're sorry we didn't get the October show out to you, but we learned a lot, and we're going to bring all that learning to you in future shows. But today, why don't we talk about our lineup? First of all, for the Peaceful Mind segment, we have Dr. Iona Popa with us, and we're going to talk about renewal, daily renewal. She's a treasure. You're going to love her. Then we talk to Dr. Pawsat, and we're going to talk about the microbiome today, and how do you know if you have microbiome issues? How do you know if you have gut issues? Why is this important, and is our gut really that important? You're going to learn about that. And then in the Q&A Productive Life segment, we're going to talk about what happens when your life just goes way off track and you're trying to get it back on track, what to do about it, how to look at it, and I'm really going to get into depth of how to give ourselves grace. So with that, let's get into our Peaceful Mind segment.
Dr. Iona is the co-founder of the Team for the Soul. Team for the Soul supports passionate leaders, healers, educators, and caregivers on their life and soul journey to achieve the highest potential while doing what they love toward the betterment of humanity. Dr. Iona is not only a physician and life coach, but also an educator, workshop presenter, speaker, and program developer. She recently launched an online digital course called The Renewal in Action. This course is a unique, transformative, and practical program designed from the inside out to help leaders, healers, educators, and caregivers regenerate, prevent burnout, connect with their core values, integrate mind, body, heart, and soul, and create a foundational daily renewal blueprint to be used for years to come. And recently, she became a board member for Ocamper. So let's bring her on.
Hello, Dr. Popa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here and great to see you both. And hi to everyone who's watching.
Yes, thank you. I think that they're really going to benefit from what we have to talk about today, because you focus in on an area that I think everyone needs to learn more about and implement in their lives, and that is renewal. I know you offer courses. We're going to talk about that, and we also talked a little bit about that before we got on. But it's so easy to get overwhelmed during the day and to just basically feel like we're losing our sanity. Renewal is so important. Can you just talk about why it's so important?
Renewal in general, I mean, regeneration, I feel like without it, we are going to run on empty. I mean, it's humble to think, but we are not just only imperfect, but we have limited resources internally and externally. And I feel it's a great, humbling spiritual practice to think of our imperfection, our limitations, and we really need to plug in. I mean, we don't think twice about our computers and phones as recharging them. We also need to be recharged and plug in with God, with our source of life. And we many times try to do it, but our mind gets busy, or we get busy, our schedule is busy. And without it, I mean, we don't think twice about eating, right, several times in a day. But sometimes we have a hard time accepting that we do need to regenerate, and we're thinking we're this, sometimes I like this joke. I heard a minister talk about it. We're thinking of, we are the Holy Spirit Junior, and we can just go, 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 go. But, Holy Spirit can help us, but we need to regenerate. We need to get plugged right in.
Yeah, and the fear, if we don't, actually, is you could be led to burnout. And I know you've experienced that a couple times in your life, haven't you?
Yes, I did. Because I was kind of that person, right? No, just go, go, go. I can do it. And I find this phenomenon is burnout happens especially for people that are very kind, very giving, and they want to keep on giving. And because of it, we have a hard time saying no and stopping and regenerating because we might feel selfish and whatnot. And actually, the paradox is that in order to keep on giving, we need to regenerate and renew body, mind, heart, and soul. And as we do that in balance, we're more pleasant to be around and more helpful and joyful and can inspire others as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. That analogy of the charging up like a phone. I was like, that makes so much sense to me. That's such a good visual of, of being depleted and thinking,
Yes.
I got to recharge.
Yeah.
I'm not going to function. That's actually super helpful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. In the olden days, it was the Energizer Bunny, right? On the commercial.
Yeah.
The bunny just kind of fell over because the batteries went dead.
Yes.
Well, in your course, Renewal in Action, I was blessed to take that course, and you talked about rituals. So there are 4 rituals. So let's talk about what that word rituals means in this case.
I like to think of rituals and kind of juxtapose with habits, because habits are so important, but many times we kind of do them automatically, but we lose the significance of it. So the way I like to think of rituals is we do our habits with a soul, and we get into a sacred space where we can actually connect with God and connect with our soul and our higher self in such a way that becomes meaningful. And so we're not just automatons, just going through the day, going through our prayer rules or with all the work that we're doing, but we're actually doing it. And I think that the heart of liturgy, it's that's what the liturgies are, engaging our mind, body, heart, and soul, all our senses are. So rituals, I found getting back into that connection helps us remind us of God. It reminds us of what we are, our purpose in this world, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Can you explain maybe some of the rituals that you teach or have your people that you work with practice?
That's a great question. I find in general that people have a lot of wisdom and resources, and they've tried lots of things. So they kind of have the inner knowing. So in the course, I help people discover what has actually worked for them, the rituals and the routines that are really working, because we're so different. Not only our minds are different, but our bodies are different, our emotions, our makeup is so different. So in sometimes we tend to say, do this 1, 2, 3, and then you get it. And it's helpful, but that could work for some people and that doesn't work for others. So I find more helpful to teach people how to connect with their own inner resources and outer resources to discern and kind of develop this inner discernment, inner guide, in a sense, to know what is good and compile, in a sense, ways that are renewing. Because walking for 10 minutes might be very renewing for some, including myself, but for some others, it might be something else. You might be running, or I don't know, I'm just, doing all sorts of other practices. So how to discern, especially as we move through different seasons in life, and our requirements, our schedule is changing. Also, our needs are changing. So what might have helped me maybe 2 years ago might not be helping me now. But having kind of a blueprint, how to discern what is needed and how to keep the rituals and my practices there's some schedule in a sense, there's some structure to it, and there's some fluidity as well to allow for us, because we're just human beings and we do change all the time. What worked for me when I was 20 is not working now, and vice versa.
Yeah, even what I found is like something that really has helped bring me kind of back to myself and has become a renewal practice is when I go to the dunes, which are local to us here in Northwest Indiana. I can go to the dunes and I can hike, and that combination of being outside and having physical activity, the fresh air, the beauty, that buoys me up, that lifts me up. There are other days when that may not be what I need. Maybe another renewal practice I have is where I just lay on the couch with a cup of tea and I read. And I find that can just turn my day around if I need to use it. So I think it's very personal, like you're saying.
Yeah. Sometimes we just need to take a nap.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the other thing that I bring in this course and in general in my teaching is that renewal doesn't have to be this huge thing that we're going to, I'm just going to finish all my schedule and then I'm going to renew. You know, we get into this avoidance and pushing everything in the future, as opposed to, I could do it for 5-10 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. Smaller drops, I found them more effective. And we can, as busy people, we can fit them better in the day than if we're just going to say, oh, I'm just going to take an hour and I'm going to do this, that. You know, before you know it, we get someone is in need, might call us, you know, we have emergencies and whatnot, and we want to help other people. So learning how to regenerate on the go in small drops, I found them more helpful because in a sense is we accumulate stress in smaller drops as well, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's fine, but just little annoyances, you know, accumulate day after day after day after day. So there's a way to kind of prevent that to happen or even chip away, so to speak, as we go.
It's almost like the word ritual, like it's almost like an art form versus like when I think like we tend to, when you think habit, you think formula, checklist.
Yes.
Whereas this is more of a gentle rhythm of choosing, you know, and you have, like you said, you have to be plugged in to the source of discernment, right, through prayer. But it's so true. It's like almost an art form to know yourself enough to know when today I need a power nap, or today I need a walk, or actually today I'm going to declutter my linen closet or something. Yes. And that those renewals not be so tied to like perfection or it has to look a certain way, but kind of approach life in general with rhythm of wellness.
Yes, a rhythm of wellness. And mind you, some people excel with to-do lists. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, yes, go for the to-do list. You know what I mean? And some people don't. So that's part of the discernment also, right? And how do we keep that? But I love what you said about, we don't have to be perfectionistic about it. It's a rhythm. It's a process, but we can have some structures, right? In a sense, all liturgies are the same, and at the same time, they're always different, right? Mm-hmm. We're human beings. There's some variations, and
I love when you talk about structure because, you know, obviously all the people who take your course and all the people you work with are not necessarily Orthodox Christians. But when you talk structure, it always reminds me about praying the hours. The church was so insightful when, you know, they came up with praying the hours. Can you talk a little bit about how that's sort of related to this daily ritual thought?
Absolutely. That was one of my inspirations. I mean, I just love the hours so much. And then being able to stop and pray with words or without words, I think is just fantastic. And it's fascinating to me as as I'm finishing my master in theological studies, and I took a course in Islamic. And most of us know this, but other faith traditions, they also know that praying throughout the day is meaningful. So there's something about that is, there's a human need, I would say, to connect with our higher self, with God on a regular basis. But yeah, the hours are just amazing. And there's a cyclicity to it that grounds us through the day.
What would you say are the biggest struggles that people have when it comes to having some sort of discipline to take care of themselves in this way?
In terms of having 4 rituals, you mean, or the mind, or
making sure that they're intentionally implementing these practices into their day so that they can have a peaceful mind and not live in overwhelm?
the blocks? Probably perfectionism, trying to make it to think about in a certain way. And I had that myself, exercising. And then you go to the gym and you exercise. You want to do the half an hour, and then you feel really great, and you do the hour. And then before you know it, in my mind, I have to go to the gym for an hour. Until I realized, you know what? I cannot say no to 10 minutes of exercise. So if I kind of negotiate with my perfectionism, my perfectionistic side of me, and agreed, okay, we can do 10 minutes, then it's easier to engage. So negotiating with our perfectionism is very important. I would say also not feeling that we're worthy to renew. It's another block, like, I'm selfish if I do that. And I would say, it's like the mask and the oxygen that we all know the metaphor. It's been used all along. And it really dawned on me when one of my daughters she was 1, a few decades ago, and was like, it shocked me the first time I was crossing the ocean. Like, what do you mean to put the mask not to my child first? I love her. I want to do that. And then it dawned on me, a dead mother is not really a helpful mother.
Right.
So it is a sense of, so if we can pass the sense of we're selfish as we do that. And of course, in our culture, self-care the pendulum is moved on the other side, and it kind of looks like indulgence at times. So if we can see that the opposite of, they're not opposite, and there is a third way where we can take it, it's out of necessity, actually.
It helps, I know, for myself when it's been a long journey, the path toward renewal, to make it really a part of my everyday life. And I really had to link up finally the idea that renewal was directly related to my spiritual fruitfulness. That the better I felt, and the more rested I felt, and the more peaceful I felt, the more I was plugged in to a source of discernment, the more I had to give. And that, love is something you have to pace yourself.
Yeah.
It's not healthy to give everything at once and then you have nothing.
Right.
Right. You gotta figure out a way that you can consistently give for the long term, and that needs some balance.
I love that. And I love the metaphor with a garden, right? To create fruit. Like when we think about our vegetables or tree or flowers, right? In order to have flowers, we got to water them. It's kind of like the same thing. If they're in drought, forget about tomatoes.
Well, Iona, I know that you are working on several things. First of all, you have this course coming out again, and then you also offer a course on grief. So can we talk about both of those coming up?
Sure. So the course, the Renewal in Action, I've decided for several months to offer it actually all the time, evergreen, just because I've realized, not that I won't launch it probably in the future, but there's a sense of people do need to have their renewal on their own schedule. So some people are more busy sometimes versus the others. So it's going to be available all the time. And in the next week, there is actually an offering for 50% off. If people, as holidays are coming, one of our values in what we're doing at Team for the Soul is generosity. So we do want to have times where we provide this for people in order to afford it.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. Where do people go to sign up for that?
Team for the Soul. So this is our website. With my husband, we have our company, and there is a tab there for that, and we will have that up for Thanksgiving and all the way to next Monday.
Great, great. And I know that there are a lot of people grieving right now. There are always people grieving. Lately, it seems like, aside from people passing, there are a lot of things to grieve. Your program that you have along with your husband is super effective. I just wanted you to touch on that a little bit also, if you can.
Yes, I've been really impressed by grief in general. I mean, there's so much grief, and when I was working in mental health, I had so many people come with grief, and what I've noticed is most programs are just they're very helpful, bringing a lot of compassion and allow people to talk about their grief. And nonetheless, it felt like it was never going. There was no resolution or sense of relief from the pain. And it just felt kind of ongoing process. And it felt sad to witness that until I heard actually at Oak Camper a few years ago, there was a chaplain who talked about grief recovery method. And she really talked about the impact it has in completing, in moving through the emotional completion of the grief. So we're not talking about forgetting our loved ones or forgetting about it, but a sense of letting go of the pain and the burdens, and find almost like a renewed connection. And we're so blessed in our faith, right? Because when someone, let's say, passes, we don't think they're just gone. We do have prayers for them. We're in connection with them. So just it allows for a beautiful flow. So our own mixed feelings are not just pulling us down. So we did the training right before COVID, and with COVID, obviously all groups were shut down after a while. So we ended up we did a group, and just recently the Institute has provided the Grief Recovery Method Institute, which is so cool to check, allowed us to do training, and we can do now this program online. Is 8 weeks. And we are doing right now our pilot, and it's just going fantastic. I mean, people are really stunned. And we had to do our own grief process. And I was like, why didn't I learn this in medical school? Like, this is so cool. Or in psychiatry training. And now it's evidence-based. So I'm really thrilled. Although it's not therapy, what are the chances to get a program like this? They've been running it for about 20, 30 years. And
Wow.
So we're really excited to be able to offer this, and we're going to start again a group in January.
Wonderful.
That is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for providing that. It's such a need.
It is. It is. Iona, thank you for everything you do. You are really helping people tremendously. I've seen it. I've known people who've worked with you, who've taken your courses, who've benefited. I have personally myself, and I just thank you for all the hard work that you do.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for inviting me here. And thank you for all the beautiful work you are doing. This is just amazing.
Thank you. Okay. We'll see you again soon, I hope.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Isn't she such a valuable source of information, Molly? She's so loving and so kind and so knowledgeable.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to know she's out there doing these really important ministries and courses. I know we've had some contact with her in our Filled with Less membership, and it's really phenomenal. I'm excited for the work she's doing.
Yeah, people's lives change. And I know when I took her course, her Renewal in Action course, she had us go through some worksheets to figure out what are these things that renew us personally. Because like we mentioned in the interview, what's good for one person, what works for me is not going to work for Molly necessarily, and may not work for you. But to understand yourself and then build these practices in intentionally during your day, that's what Filled with Less is all about, right? Less overwhelm, less stress, and a more peaceful mind.
Yeah, and the power of community to be plugged in either to what we try to provide here in our group or with Dr. Iona's group. You need to be reminded daily to choose renewal. I think a lot of times when we try to go it alone, we just fall off the wagon, or we get sucked into chaos of the world, or we forget where we're heading. And that community aspect is invaluable in terms of staying the course and knowing, of course, it's always going to be 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, but in general, picking ourselves back up and continuing to put one foot in front of the other and choose those rituals every day.
Yeah, exactly. You can't keep pushing yourself and not expect to get burnt out and be less productive and less effective than you would be if you were taking care of yourself. And you know what else you can't push, Molly?
What?
Your body.
Yes.
Your microbiome. Your gut microbiome. So with that, we're going to get into our next segment, and that is the Healthy Body segment. Dr. Dave Pawsat received a Bachelor's of Science degree in physiology from Michigan State University. After college, he performed pulmonary function and sleep testing for Sinai Hospital in Detroit, where he was an integral part in the development of Sinai's first sleep center. After being an ER doctor for 12 years, he opened the Center for Optimal Health. The premise that medicine should begin by treating the cause, not the symptoms, is the centerpiece of the practice. The skillful integration of conventional medicine combined with nutritional and hormonal therapies is the cornerstone of his care. Hello, Dr. Pawsat. Welcome to the Filled with Less show.
Nice to be here.
It was such a pleasure when Molly and I heard you speak at the Orthodox Women in the Healing Ministries conference at Holy Door Mission in Michigan in October. Wow, that was last month already. And I just loved everything you had to say, particularly when you were talking about the microbiome, which is near and dear to my heart. I don't think people know how the microbiome affects basically everything going on in their body. So can you talk about the microbiome for a minute?
Yeah, it's been amazing. There's been an explosion of research, probably over the last 3 to 4 years, regarding the microbiome. The whole concept of the microbiome, first of all, is not new. I mean, Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. And so this is not a new concept, but the research over the last 3 to 4 years has been just amazing, the explosion of information coming out. And basically what the microbiome is that we basically have an ecosystem that lives within us. And that ecosystem is the bacteria and the fungi and the viruses that basically live in your bowels. And in this ecosystem is evolved along with us. I mean, turtles and ants and every animal has a microbiome. And it's almost like it's co-evolved with us, this microbiome. And these bacteria, there's anywhere from 1 to 10 trillion bacteria in our bowels. I mean, think of that. We have about a trillion bacteria cells in our body, but up to 10 trillion bacteria in our bowels. The number is disputed. They're not sure of exactly how much, but it's amazing how many bacteria are in our bowels. In this, as we evolved as a species, this ecosystem actually evolved along with us, and it in itself has a whole evolutionary relationship with us, and it's amazing how that relationship affects our health in so many ways.
So for the audience listening right now, I think that they're probably thinking, oh, this is really good information. I love this information. It's good to know, but why should I care? So I'm wondering, what symptoms are people usually presenting with that you may get like the red flag, oh my gosh, let's look at their microbiome?
You know, it's funny. Normally you would say gastrointestinal issues. You know, if you're not having 1 or 2 just simple good bowel movements every day, your bowel balance, so your microbiome balance is probably off. I mean, it's simply, you should be having 2 very good, solid bowel movements every day, or at least one. And if that's not happening, or if you have loose stools and diarrhea or anything like that, then you do have a dysbiosis. But It goes far beyond that. Anyone with an autoimmune issue, depression, anxiety, all these things may be associated with a dysbiosis or an imbalance in your microbiome.
Yeah, I think of a lot of people who have skin issues also, like psoriasis or eczema, right?
Yeah.
People with ADD that think, I just need to be on a medication, but they should also be considering their gut microbiome. So when you see all of these external symptoms coming up, and especially, like you said, anxiety and depression are huge factors here, what are some things that people can do to make sure that they have a healthy gut microbiome?
Well, there's two things. You need to avoid certain things, and you need to promote growth of the good bacteria. Avoiding at all costs, if possible. I mean, of course, antibiotics are life-saving, but use them sparingly. Use them very carefully, antibiotics, because, of course, when you put an antibiotic into your microbiome, it's going to kill bacteria. Right. So you use those sparingly. There's all kinds of medications that actually cause dysbiosis, and that's stuff such as NSAIDs, such as ibuprofen. Antacids will do it. Drinking alcohol will do it. So all these little things, there's many of them. Steroids will do it. So there's a lot of different medications that may cause a dysbiosis or an imbalance in your microbiome. So avoidance of certain things, and then promotion of the proper food for the bacteria. And those foods include fiber. Fiber is probably the number one thing you can do, is increase the amount of fiber that you have in your body, both soluble and insoluble. The insoluble being anything that sits in water and turns mushy, such as oatmeal or flax seeds or beans, and all these things that turn mushy. Those are things that will feed the good bacteria. So it's, and then in between promoting good foods, is tons of fiber, and avoiding things, that's the key to getting the microbiome back.
Yeah, I just love that, Dave. I'm always coming back to the fact that God made us so beautifully and so perfectly, and that food is our medicine. And right. We can change our gut microbiome by what we're eating or not eating, and same thing for drinking, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I think, and I like that you touched on alcohol being a big issue, because alcohol is like an antibiotic. Alcohol kills bacteria.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. And I don't think people connect that.
Yeah, it's really the one thing, that I always tell patients, everyone's going to get older, and we're all going to keep aging, but we can keep our microbiome. It's a renewable resource. We can keep it nimble and healthy and young as we age. I mean, it's one of those things that we have a lot of effect, that we can affect much more than we realize. Yeah. It's all about what the choices we make.
Absolutely. It's funny because when I'm leading retreats and I'm teaching on reading food labels, and I'm teaching about why we don't want to get anything with preservatives in it, is because preservatives kill bacteria. That's why they're in foods. And we are basically, like you said in the very beginning, we are walking, talking, moving bacteria. We have more bacteria in our bodies than human cells, is what I think I read.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we are. It's amazing, like I said. The more I dig into this, it's unbelievable, the literature coming out about almost every aspect of our health is affected by the health of the bacterial balance in our bodies. It's way, way more. Even, some of the literature is even showing that the amount of chemical mediators that are released from these bacteria and stuff, and their influence on our vagus nerve and everything, has a huge effect on our decision making. It affects how we think. There's a lot of stuff coming out, and it's really kind of really cool stuff coming out right now. And, as I've done this type of medicine, you just get lit up with such excitement when you find these new aspects of how to help people heal. And then to see it happen is just amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And I love that, Hippocrates was so wise back in his day, and it just seems like his messages were kind of lost for quite a long time, and now we're just realizing how much of a genius he was. And there's more information coming up from the gut to the brain than there is from the brain down to the gut, right?
Yeah, that's exactly, I always say, if you think about it, like if you take the vagus nerve, it's kind of like this nerve that's kind of like your fingers. It feels things. It's sensing your organs and it's sensing your bowels. And there's probably, if you had a 6-lane highway, about 4 of those lanes on that highway would be from your bowels up to your brain, and only 2 of those lanes would be from your brain down to your bowels, the way that the nerve senses. So it's like a huge sensory organ. And so if it senses that your microbiome's off, it's gonna influence you and the way you're thinking, because it knows you're not safe. It's pretty cool stuff.
It's very cool, very cool. So this is definitely something that our listeners and our people who are watching this show need to take into account and start some good practices in their life for microbiome health. And I'm sure glad you were able to join us today, Dr. Pawsat. You are an invaluable, I think, Orthodox Christian source of advanced medicine and integrative medicine, and I just really value you. Thank you for all the work you do.
Oh, thank you, Cynthia. It's so nice. It was so nice seeing you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. So, Molly, you and I have been working together for a long time, so no doubt a lot of this was not new to you. But did he say anything that kind of was a good refresher or was new?
Yeah. I think from working with you, I'm a slow learner with stuff like this, like with this side of health, that's more like the facts and the,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always amazed by how the body works. Like, it's absolutely fascinating to me to be reminded, either through you or for sure today from Dr. Pawsat, how the body is using everything I consume.
Yeah.
And what's happening in there. It's like a whole world of miracles taking place that I don't even really consciously realize. Yeah. And for me, knowing that information really does help me make better decisions. Yeah. Because now I can picture what is happening when I consume the right things, and then also what's happening when I consume the wrong things.
Yeah.
And that's just a big motivator for me.
Yeah, it is for me too. I know that Dr. Mark Hyman and a lot of other doctors are saying, what's on the end of your fork is information. It tells your body to thrive, or it tells your body to just survive and hang on because, this isn't good. So you have so much control, and God created us that way. And it's just beautiful, and it inspires me every day to keep doing what I do.
Yeah, thank you. And I appreciate just being exposed to it regularly. I think that's a lot of it, is just making sure that I am always aware of that and learning, because it's easy to forget. So I really appreciate all the work you do and the work that Dr. Pawsat is doing, just to keep us mindful of how important it is, like you said, to place at the end of our forks what is truly healing to our bodies.
Absolutely. So with that, let's get on to our next segment, which is our Productive Life segment.
Today's community question is, how do I get back on track after my best laid plans are derailed? Cynthia, this just seems to be such a reoccurring theme for so many of us. It seems like one of the biggest hang-ups that people experience when really trying to implement new habits or new rhythms is this fear of derailment. Mm-hmm. And, you've been working hard, let's say, on establishing a healthy eating plan or an exercise program or like a home management system. You've been putting the effort in, and then inevitably, of course, things get chaotic. Yeah. A crisis happens, you get sick, one of your kids gets sick, it could be anything. And now it just seems like all your hard work has fallen by the wayside. And when you reach that point, which again is inevitable, mm-hmm. You have to expect that's going to happen. You're really at a fork in the road. And you have to choose what kind of perspective or mindset you're going to have about this stumble. And you can either choose positive or negative. So if you choose negative, and by negative I mean either catastrophizing, so you say to yourself, well, things are never going to slow down. This is my new reality forever. I'm never going to feel peaceful again. I've been there and I've done that through hard seasons. And that's one way to stay down. Okay. The other is self-condemnation. I'm lazy, I'm undisciplined, I'm hopeless. Why even bother? I never, ever stick to anything. Or there's just resignation. What's the point? Why even try if it's all going to just be ruined, if I can't do it perfectly? And by taking that mindset, like I said, again, yes, you will stay down when you fall down, which is, quite frankly, exactly where the devil wants you to be.
Yes.
He wants you to be defeated, despairing, distracted, and overwhelmed. But if in that moment you can pause and choose the other path, the path of positivity, your derailment can actually be seen as an opportunity to grow in resilience and flexibility and patience. By putting all the hard work that you've already put in, by whatever progress you made, whether it was for 2 weeks or a month, you began to feel the benefits of these intentional tools. You were awakened to a new way of life, new possibilities, and you will never lose that. You have gained that, and that's really important that you have felt that success. You also now know how to turn to these tools such as morning stillness, time management, boundaries, gratitude journaling. Now you have these this toolbox to draw from to find calm and productivity. What derailment is teaching you is actually growth and maturity in these new skills. How to hunker down and weather a storm, and then afterwards to pick back up and rebuild when it passes. Because there are seasons, right? There are seasons for doing, and there are seasons for reflecting. There are seasons for creating and seasons for patiently enduring. And all of them are necessary for our salvation. So remaining receptive and open to whatever this crisis, this trial is trying to teach you is very, very important. Mm-hmm. As well as, allowing yourself to find confidence and comfort in your ability to pick things back up where you left off when you can.
Yes.
And each time you return to those habits, especially after stumbling, those habits and rhythms, they are going to become more automatic. This is definitely a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps forward journey.
Yes, it absolutely is. You said that beautifully, Molly, and it is commendable for people to strive.
Yes.
Commendable to have goals, commendable to practice good time management skills. All of this is commendable, but 100% perfection is not what we're going for here. And feeling derailed is just, it's so easy to give yourself a lack of grace. And I love what you said, that it's really all about mindset that gets you back on and doesn't make you give up.
Right.
And what I can say now is, working with over 100 clients now, it doesn't matter, men, women, young, old, living in, all over the world, it doesn't matter. Everybody is struggling. Everybody. And they're struggling with everything from finances to work to relationships to health issues. Who knows what? But I've found, without a doubt, everybody is struggling. So what's the next thing that happens when you're struggling? Well, you just do the best you can do. That's all you can do. The best you can do. But here's the caveat. Some people, they're struggling. They're doing the best they can do, but they feel like their best isn't good enough. Right? Either based on their own high standards for themselves or what they perceive other people's expectations are of them. So what does that do? That brings on shame. That brings on guilt. See how this is all happening in your mind? Right. See how this is all based on notions of what you think is true, and that creates the feelings, and that creates the downward spiral. here's what I want you to do. I have a remedy for you. And today, when you go to work, when you go to the gym, when you go to the grocery store, wherever you go, I want you to look at other people as though you can see their heart, their mind, and their soul. I want you to look at people and see that they're struggling. That person is not smiling at you because they're just doing the best they can do. When you start looking around yourself and looking at all these other people who are in the same boat you're in, we're all in the same boat, I promise you that you will start being kinder to yourself. Because you are going to see those people for who they are, for their struggles, who they are in Christ, a child of God just like you are. You're going to start talking to yourself the way you would talk to them. You're going to start loving yourself the way you love them. And I have seen personally huge changes happen in people's lives when they start this practice. So I just want to encourage all of you to go out and do that today.
You know, Cynthia, it actually makes me think of what we talked about in the beginning of our show about Father John Calbom, about moving from the head to the heart.
Yes.
And how derailment, seen from inside of our heads, is very much like, it's very much about shame. It's very much about perfection and, you know, us trying to figure it out, and negative self-talk and comparing ourselves to others. But derailment, as seen from our hearts, when we're living, you know, we see it as, like you said, empathy, compassion for others, and compassion for ourselves, and continuing to hope, continuing to do the best we can with what we have at any given moment. And I think we have to abide in our hearts in order to do that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, we've given you guys a lot to work on in this show today, a lot of tips and techniques, things to take home, things to start after you're done watching the show. And that's the wrap-up for today. But there are always ways you can stay in touch with us. So why don't we talk about the ways you can stay in touch?
Okay, so first I have a little bit of bad news.
Well, it's not all bad, so everyone hang on.
It's not all bad. But we have taken down our 6 Weeks to Sanity course. Over the last year, we tried to make it evergreen, meaning that you could take it at any time. But what we actually found was that people really wanted to do this in community.
Yes.
That was a big part of the course, is going through it with people and making those changes together, the live calls. So we needed that active community aspect. So now here's the good news. The really good news, actually, is that we are opening up this course again in January. So make sure to stay in the loop to join us. Make sure you're on our weekly wellness newsletter so you can find out more about it. Or just go to our website, filledwithless.com, to sign up. And we'll be talking it in our social media pages too. We'll be talking about it there. But we're really excited to relaunch it. It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. And Presbyter Stacy will be with us again.
Yes.
And I know a lot of you have missed her and her whole organizing and decluttering expertise. But we're going to be coming up, leading up to the launch of that course in January. Molly and I are going to be giving you a whole bunch of resources and things to take advantage of before you even jump in. So that'll be fun. Then, of course, the membership, like I said, we are a member-sponsored ministry. So we appreciate your membership. We want you to jump in, do as much as you can do or as little as you can do, and just know that, I mean, even if it's just knowing that there's a community of people behind you so that when you have a prayer request, you just put it in the chat room and you've got all these people praying for you. I mean, even that, I think, is invaluable. And then there's book club.
Book club. I love book club. And this month we are reading Food, Faith, and Fasting by Rita Madden. Great timing for that as we enter the Nativity Fast. And the very good news about that is that we actually are having Rita join us on this book club episode discussion. So I am really happy about that. And that's taking place Monday, November 29th at 6 p.m. Central.
Exactly.
And you can go to our website and register there to make sure you get a link to join us.
Absolutely. And then last, I just want to let you know about My Beautiful Advent, because that was part of what was happening with me in October. I had like 20, 30, 40 hours of work on Advent, and we brought in professors from St. Vladimir's Seminary, and I interviewed them on different saints that we celebrate the feast days of during the Advent season. So a lot of people haven't been able to go to seminary. Here's an opportunity to learn from St. Vladimir's professors. And then, of course, you get meal plans and shopping lists, and you get a daily prayer routine. You get daily inspirations from the saints, a whole bunch of stuff. Plus, once again, a community to go through Advent with and experience the Nativity Fast to its fullest. So I encourage you to join us for My Beautiful Advent also, and that's just at mybeautifuladvent.com. So with that, it's time to say goodbye, and we love you guys. Everything we do is just to help you through life and navigate being an Orthodox Christian through our culture and our struggles, and we're just all in this together. And we hope you join us next month.
Goodbye.